I have a strong hand on the gavel. Councilmember Ramos gave me some feedback that I was not hitting the gavel hard enough, and since then, I may have overcompensated, so.
A little warning next time.
I apologize, Madam IG. Good evening. This is the second meeting for the committee for the Office of Oversight for the Office of Water Advocacy and Consumer Appeals, or WACA. I'm Council President Cohen, Chair of the committee, and I'm joined by board members, Councilmember Paris Gray of the 8th District, Councilmember Jermaine Jones of the 12th District, Councilmember Odette Ramos of the 14th District. Sitting in for Comptroller Bill Henry, we have Tim Goldsby, Deputy Comptroller. Inspector General Isabel Cumming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senior Advisor for the Mayor, Dana Moore.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Chief Mills, the WACA team, DPW staff, and members of the public in attendance and tuned in online. I will first entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the September 8th, 2025 meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Let's try that again. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion passes and the committee minutes are adopted. As a reminder, the Office of the Water Advocacy and Consumer Appeals, or WACA, is a neutral intermediary housed within the Department of Public Works. It is a customer advocate investigating water customer issues and making recommendations for improvements to water billing. Last September, we heard from Chief Mills on the work he is leading, settling disputes on behalf of the water ratepayers in Baltimore City. The trust that is required for a group housed within DPW to act independently should not be understated. Last time, we learned that only 7% of resolved disputes and 14% of Water for All appeals are different from the department's decision. Even still, WACA has granted over $1.3 million in water bill relief. Here's an example of that. In October of 2021, a small business in Hamden received a bill after not being charged for water for more than half a year. This was followed by a bill for 3 months of service in January 2022, totaling over $27,000, for which an adjustment was denied. In October 2023, without experiencing any relief, the business was overcharged again, bringing the total amount owed to over $44,000. The owner of the property received a notice from the City of Baltimore Tax Sales Department over these bills, leaving this business and the revenue it generates to disappear from the community if no relief was granted. The business reached out to WACA after being referred to it by the Environmental Control Board on October 5th, 2023. What WACA found during the course of a year-long investigation is that the customer experienced inconsistent billing cycles, was incorrectly and improperly billed, including double billing, received bad customer service that didn't fully explain why they had been charged that rate from DPW, and finally found that one of their bills appeared to cover the period of November 2018 to October 2023. This explicitly violated city law, and it almost pulled the business under. In total, the business was granted relief of $47,055.84 through this process. WACA helped this property go from potentially being sold by the city through tax sale, Councilmember Ramos, to still operating today. They also recommended DPW implement policies to prevent this kind of harm befalling other businesses in the future as well. That said, we are still seeing delays, inefficiencies, and problems with this system that we hope to address through this series of hearings. We need systems in place to ensure our residents are not missing out on 1 penny of relief. This is a service that affects every resident of Baltimore City, and I'm proud to work with my colleagues on this committee to push for better results, faster resolution of cases, and more transparency for our residents. With that, I will hand it over to Chief Mills from WACA to guide us through the work his team has done since last September and his vision for the future of his office. And Chief, I will note, wanted to start out with that really positive example of some of the work that you all have done. I think it's extremely important in this moment where everyone is concerned about affordability, whether it's BGE bills, whether it's the water bill. Very grateful that your team was able to step in and get that done and provide some relief to the customer. That's exactly why the council created this entity, and we are grateful of your work. I will note, we did receive your report pretty late and would have loved some more time for this committee to read it, digest it, go through it, and be able to come prepared to ask even more thoughtful questions. But with that, I will turn it over to Chief Mills.
Good evening. Thank you, and Council President Cohen, and I appreciate the remarks on behalf of the WACA team and the department. Because of time, I'll go ahead and get started unless there's anything else you'd like me to first address. No? All right.
No, let's go.
So while that's occurring, what I will say is that most of the beginning slides we've gone through previously, so I won't bore the committee with reviewing, with the exception of, wait a minute, which way should I be pointing? That way. Okay, there we go. So at the first meeting of the committee, we did reference several times that we were expecting a member of the executive leadership program to come on board and assist. And so that's Ms. Joy Douglas. She is now with our team. Her assignment ends in August. And so we are working diligently to ensure that we can retain her. She has been a tremendous assistance. Previously, we went through our water and wastewater dispute billing flow investigation framework, just in case anyone needed to see that again, as well as the methodology. Again, we do this for every case. We go through a series of questions and sub-questions under each of the steps. And the report that is distributed to customers is based on what is in Article 24, Section 2-20. And so now to get to the current metrics, updated metrics. So currently, as of all numbers are as of the 31st of March. We've onboarded, this is since the beginning of receiving cases, which is September 2023. We've onboarded 569 cases through the end of March. 141 of those are active, 137 closed. If you compare that to the first meeting, you will notice a stark increase in the number of completed cases. If you look at the bottom where it says investigation by priority, that little footnote that mentions that 70 of the Tier 1 cases are water for all, we were able to get to that number specifically because Ms. Joy Douglas is a fast learner and has been very helpful with getting those done. So when I emphasize the need for bodies, in addition to process improvement, this is what that did. It helped us move exponentially through a number of those water for all appeals. There are 6 reports in progress and 45 in my folder to review. In terms of the number of investigations, over 70% of our cases come either from appeals to denial for water for all or appeals to an adverse adjustment decision. Again, the view of the status. Last time, we were also deficient in the number of property types we were able to identify. And so as you can see there, we've pretty much gotten them all. There's a difference of about 4, and that's because some customers decide after onboarding they may not want to continue, and so we've removed the information out of there. But outside of that, it's there. You referenced also the bottom footnote. This time, 38% of the resolved disputes and 50% of the Water for All appeals are different from the department decisions. So by and large, most of what we review, we end up sustaining what the department has previously determined, but there are a number of them, and some of them are also high dollar appeals that I'll address shortly. We've offered relief or determined relief should be granted to a number of customers. These are the ones that are currently outstanding. And so we're working through a process so that we, one, are able to find out when the adjustments have been applied, but also figuring out what that process should look like. But I mentioned, if you look at the bottom in the green, when you look at the overall number of determinations, you'll see 1.3 million. But that's actually, it's worth noting that 5 of those cases are above 10,000, and I would call them outliers. The majority of them are 7,000 or less. And so those 5 make up the bulk of that 1.3 that has been determined on behalf of customers. But all total, of the 145 cases that we've completed, you see there the number 65 that have been reversed, 80 that have been sustained. And again, this is a smaller grid because we're only showing those that have not been granted relief since September. I didn't want to have 3 slides showing 82 rows of data. It didn't make sense. And just a bird's eye view of what that looks like in the city. So you see 21215 has the largest number of appeals or disputes that have been approved, followed by 13 and 29. By councilmanic district, District 6, 9, and I believe 13. Yeah, 6, 9, and 13 are leading the pack. The only concern that's most notable is that the county hasn't moved, so I don't know what that means, but we're still working to figure out how we make certain that all customers are aware of the office's services. The number of recommendations that have been provided to the department in September, we noted 68. That number has increased to 92. And I'm working with our liaison entity within CSSD to work with them to figure out, okay, where are you with the recommendations so that we can note whether they've been completed, whether it's not something that can be done, et cetera. We also have a legislative or statutory requirement to report at least on Water for All numbers. So here are some basic numbers in terms of first-time applicants as well as renewals. You'll notice there that year over year, the number of renewed applications has increased. So whether that is a combination of communication as well as customers now realizing that this isn't a one-time credit that they can apply each year, that number is steadily increasing. This is our year-over-year numbers for total applications versus approved applications, and the Water for All work group meets bi-weekly at the moment, and so it's during those meetings that we address any outstanding issues. Again, the median household size and income is there for you still. You know, we don't have 2.2 people, so we'll just say an average of 2 people per household for those applicants. And then here are the variety of reasons for denials. There are about 6,100 total, with most of it being no response from the customer. And some of that we're determining what that could be, because 50% of the applications are paper, which means the customers don't necessarily have access to email. And so we have started doing calls, robocalls and what have you, but we're still working through that to figure out how we get that number down.
Chief, just one more time. So half of what you're dealing with is still on paper?
Yes, the MOCFS team processes applications, and just about half, if not more, are paper applications, meaning once someone brings it in, one of the team members from MOCFS has to enter that data into the platform to be processed.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep. And finally, just one recommendation this time, still seeking guidance on Article 24, Section 220D, in terms of how the adjustments get applied. I think that understanding that will also address the issue in terms of how long that should take. And so our community partners again, and ready for any questions.
Thank you so much, Chief Mills. Questions from the committee? Councilmember Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two main questions, and again, lots of data. Want to echo that I wish I had this ahead of time so that I could actually read through it, but I will reflect on a couple things from the last hearing. One is we talked extensively about automatic enrollment into Water for All. And I got the right person at DSS for the file, right? Because we needed the income file, you know, basically thinking that those folks that are already getting social services would probably automatically, you know.
Correct.
What's the status? It's
So-
6 months later. I got you the right person. What's going on?
The last communication we received from the point of contact was that he was still working on it, but in concurrent to that, Ms. Lewis, Penny Lewis, the program administrator from MOCFS, has reached out to a colleague to see what assistance they could provide us with moving a little quicker to get a hold of the data needed.
So
to
the
do
email
mass
that we
enrollment.
got was about 6 months ago, and I don't know if you've had any other back and forth conversations without being CC'd, but, you know, since considering that this was my question and is a major priority, I need to be involved in that.
So we haven't received any information without, that you've not been on, not from.
Okay, that was
the
6
point of
months ago.
contact.
How come
Correct.
nobody came to me and said, hey, Councilwoman, we
Well, no,
need some help?
he did reply since then, probably 2 or 3 months ago. I'd have to go back and look, but he did give us a reply that he had not forgotten and he's still working on it, which is why we also made certain that we weren't just twiddling our thumbs and went to look at other avenues.
Of course, you had
to
to, and I
ensure.
appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you. But I would make a committee request if we're doing that in this committee that, you know, first of all, I be involved in that situation. And second of all, that, you know, within 3 months that we have a plan for getting everybody, you know, that everybody gets automatic enrollment, at least until at the end of this, you know, where are we now? We're in April. We're about to be in May. Let's say end of July, that, you know, we try to do this because it's really important for our families.
Correct.
And as you said, with 50% of the applicants using paper, I bet like most of our applicants are actually paper because they're not using internet. And so automatic enrollment is extremely, extremely important.
Correct. So we do have a plan of
Hang
action.
on.
We're just waiting for.
Hang on one second, Chief Mills. I want to capture the committee request accurately, and there were two parts. One is to please and thank you, keep Councilmember Ramos
Yes.
involved as you move forward. Two is, I heard 3 months to get everyone auto-enrolled into the Water for All program. Councilmember Ramos, does that accurately summarize your committee requests?
Yes.
Chief Mills, are you amenable to that timeline and to keeping the council member engaged as a member of this committee in moving that forward?
So keeping the council member engaged is definitely not an issue. I would want to add an asterisk to the everyone enrolled. I know I don't want to leave the term everyone out. I know we're talking those who are on public benefits, but that those who are on public benefits is also dependent upon receiving that data from an external source. So that's the part of keeping you in the loop, so we make certain that this moves at the pace that you are hoping it moves. Is that correct?
Yes, we need to have that happen immediately. Yep. And it's because, and again, for the committee and for the public, we used to have automatic enrollment in the BH2O, and I don't really know why we ended that. So it's definitely needs to occur. And then my second
Just
question,
apologies, Councilmember Ramos. Just to restate, so we have a commitment, Chief, to keep the councilwoman involved, as well as to move as expeditiously as possible, preferably within the next 3 months, that is 90 days. And your asterisk is for folks when there is an external factor, be it public challenges around public assistance. That is what we have agreed to here tonight.
Correct.
Okay, please record that as a committee request. Back to you, Councilmember Ramos.
thank you. Are we doing 2 questions?
Yeah, you can do a
Okay,
second question.
Thank you so much. Chief Mills, I'm wondering about your caseload. I'm trying to find the right slide. I guess this 569
Yes, ma'am.
caseload? Okay. And so the law says that residents can go either to the customer service folks or to your office.
Correct.
And I get that at the time that the bill was written, there were, at the time that the bill was written, there were a lot of challenges with our customer service work, and now they have improved themselves tremendously, and we're getting a lot of that. But I guess my question is, of the percentage of your current backlog, I guess this is the backlog, how many are directly to you, and how many are actual appeals, meaning that people were not happy with the decision that CSSD made and then went to your office?
The exact number is actually should be on that slide with the pie chart.
That's the slide I'm looking
46
at.
46% are direct appeals to adjustment decisions, and another 30+% are appeals for an adverse decision related to their water for all application. So just under 75% are following through that process of first working within the agency and then coming into WACA.
But then this additional 20% is the water billing that came directly to you, disputes
From
that
what
came
we can
direct-
tell so far, some of them have been reclassified since the last time, some have been reclassified as appeals. Once the customer advocate begins working on that investigation, they update the information accordingly. So a number of our customers just email in that they want to dispute or appeal. Some of them actually participate in the onboarding process. Some of them we end up contacting several times to get their participation, and then we update the information afterwards.
So what is your ideal in terms of, don't you think they should work with CSSD first, now that they've improved a lot, and then appeal to you if there's still a dispute? Or they don't like what, they got from CSSD?
I would say my personal would be to keep two doors, give them the option. And as we onboard them, because there are a number of cases that where we've spoken with the customer, we'll tell them directly, you will get this resolved quicker if you go back to customer support, and they'll be able to assist you with it, but you will retain your right to appeal any adverse decision if you desire. So we do redirect, especially on ones that we see are simple. There are some who have not completed the process that have had some engagement, and their preference is to just deal with WACA.
Okay, I'll have some follow-up questions, but I'll yield to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ramos. You are not a council member. Inspector General Cumming?
Okay. Hi. My question involved, you, again, on the same chart that Councilwoman Ramos was. I'm just asking for a point of clarification because I'm not sure. You say you have 6 reports in progress and 45 reports in review. Now, do those reports go to the public, or do they just go to the people that are in concern?
So the statute requires that we provide a written report to the customer. And so the 6 in progress means that a customer advocate is in process of writing the report to finalize their investigation. 45 for review, at least 15 of those are waiting for additional information from the customer, because as we've gone through, for instance, some Water for All appeals, we've identified that the customer has a leak, and so we don't complete anything until they've repaired the leak, and then we can move forward. Even if a customer advocate is working on a billing dispute, if we identify that there's something else going on that the customer needs to take care of, we ask them to do that before we finalize. So there are 45 to be reviewed, but a few of those are waiting for additional action from the customer.
So that means from that, there's 30 of them, 15 had advocates, then 30 of them, they're just like, the reports are being finalized?
Yes. So once the customer advocate finishes their report, then I review all the reports before they go out the door to make certain we've dotted all I's, crossed all T's.
And what is our timeline? And like the 45 that are in there, how long? Oh, am I allowed to continue with the question? Okay.
Same line of
It is. How long does it take? I mean, I know they're all different, and I know you had them prioritized last time.
Right.
So these 30 that are just pending, is it just because there's not enough people, or I'm just trying to understand your process?
So if they're in the folder to be reviewed, they're now on my desk to be reviewed.
Okay.
I couldn't give you an exact time. I know we're talking through whether you count when they lodge their dispute versus when we begin the investigation. We do have a date when they end up in the review folder, so I would have to go back and pull that together to give you an actual number.
Okay, is that because, I mean, 30 is a lot. I mean, you know, my office has investigations too, and to have 45 in reviews a lot. I would be overwhelmed if I had that. So, I mean, is there something that can be done to help that?
The reviews? No.
Yeah.
I won't say no, but I would say at the moment, I can't think of anything other than just hunkering down and getting them done.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Inspector General. Councilmember Gray?
Thank you. I guess page 8, graphic 15, the Walker investigations by councilmatic district. I see all the councilmatic districts and I also see the county. Could you explain a little more about the investigations and the outcomes that are given to folks in Baltimore County?
So as customers, we also conduct the investigation for them and provide them the same type of report as to whether or not they will or will not receive relief being an adjustment. So we don't differentiate in terms of our reporting and investigation process, what we do. It's the same process as city residents.
And does that include like programs like Water for All?
Waterfall is only for Baltimore City, to my understanding. It's only for Baltimore City.
Okay, I only ask that because I want to make sure that I have no problem with my colleagues in the county and the citizens in the county, but I am very focused and I only care about, when it comes to these issues, citizens of Baltimore City. And I understand that they are using Baltimore City services, but I think that is that should be covered by Baltimore County because those are their constituents. And I guess aside from that, I don't know if we have anyone from law, but is anyone from DPW able to clarify on the record whether WACA's jurisdiction includes all Baltimore City DPW customers, including Baltimore County account holders? And if so, which rights apply and which programs are limited to city residents? I think that is a very important distinction we should have on the record today before we move forward.
Good evening, Katie Brinson Hinton, Deputy General Counsel for DPW. We have conferred and studied this particular issue with city law, and although the statute does not expressly say that, based upon a deep dive into the legislative history regarding this particular program in conjunction, at the same time, the legislative history also combined Water for All services. It was intended to cover only Baltimore City residences. So we are working on seeing how we can clarify that particular question.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was what I was hitting at because once again, I wholly believe that Baltimore County should look out for Baltimore County the same way if it was opposite. I'm sure they would gladly tell folks to please talk to your councilperson or mayor. Can we have that as a committee request?
Correct.
For a workable timeline where we can determine that. And I say this not to be, stingy, but also with 32 investigations, I think that takes a lot off your plate as well, Mr. Mills, and you shouldn't have to worry with those issues because Baltimore County, they are very capable of doing it themselves. And so the committee request is for us to figure out, law and DPW, whether this law includes Baltimore County residents, and the spirit of this law, does it cover it? And if not, we can
Right.
cease going forward.
Understood. Also, one of the other
Hang on one
factual-
second. Excuse me, I apologize. Councilman, if you could put a date by which that request
Sure.
would be returned to this committee. I
When is the next
appreciate
time
it.
we're hearing? In 6 months from now?
I don't even want to be. What is it? September 14th.
How about August 14th? Give us a month to work with it.
Sure thing. One of the other factual factors.
Hang on, just, you could
Absolutely.
pause for one quick second, just so
problem.
my committee staff can get it. So we are agreeing to produce an analysis on whether county residents are covered by August 14th by both, you said, the law department and I assume DPW. Is that a workable timeframe for you all?
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Please, Councilman.
Yeah, you can continue on.
One of the other factual aspects that you will see in that analysis is that Baltimore County customers also pay for CSSD services under the cost allocation model upon which they pay. WACA is not included in that model. So you'll see that's also one of the factors that support the legislative analysis that WACA was not intended to expand to Baltimore County. And we will have that produced within a month.
Thank you so much. A follow-up, you may want to actually stay there. I guess this question would be for DPW. When making the determinations and the implementations of whatever is going forward, one of the issues I heard Councilwoman Ramos talk about briefly, and I'm sure she's going to follow up with amazing questions, is this, we have like a dual process right now with WACA and with DPW. When WACA issues a determination or recommendation, what review does DPW conduct before implementing, modifying, or rejecting it?
It is my understanding, and I definitely will defer to my other DPW colleagues if I am incorrect, that after WACA issues a report, there is an internal review by CSSD. To the extent CSSD disagrees with WACA's investigation or report stemming from that investigation, there is then a process by which CSSD will outline why it would disagree, and then DPW leadership would then analyze if there is a dispute with that determination.
How does that get resolved in the sense of, let's say, for example, Mr. Mills and his team do their diligent work. We determine that, this is $8,000 goes back to the resident because this water leak is the fault of Baltimore City. DPW comes back and says, this is not our fault. We have evidence that it's not. That letter and determination has been sent out. How does that get resolved? And I only ask that is because one of the things I want to make sure we're taking care of customers, but we're not leaving them confused. Because, quite frankly, if Walker sends me something saying I'm owed $8,000, whatever communication comes from DPW at that point that doesn't confirm that, I am not listening to, and I need to talk to someone else at that point. And so to clarify the process and to make sure that everyone's on one accord, how does this process ultimately ends? And I'll ask both sides, should there be a process in where folks are checking with each other before those types of communications are sent out, only to not confuse the customer? And DPW can answer, but I also definitely want Mr. Mills to answer as well. And those will be all my questions for now.
So good evening, committee. I do apologize for my voice. My name is Alan Robinson. I am the Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. So, Councilman Gray, that's a great question that you've asked. And that is a discussion that we're having internally because there is an interpretation of the current article that not everyone agrees with. And I'll leave it there. What we have recommended, so to avoid that confusion, is that once one party makes a determination, before it is actually issued to the constituent, property owner, bill owner, that there is conversation internally and agreement before we send it out, because as you've stated, that can create a lot of confusion where a letter has been sent out by one party that is supposed to be a part of the larger group saying one thing, and then a determination is made otherwise. Ultimately, we interpret it as the Director of the Public Works has the final say in any type of adjustment when it comes to bill adjustments across the board. We do recognize the authority and the delegated powers within our units, but ultimately, that final decision is with the Director of Public Works. And so I'll leave it there. I hope that answered, but we will work accordingly with both our internal legal and city solicitor to support in writing that determination as well. Okay.
My response to what you're requesting, so I will say I eagerly await an opportunity to have a full discussion regarding not just Baltimore County customers, but also WACA determinations. What I will add in terms of county customers, so this is the first time I've heard they pay for specific services in terms of customer support. And so one of the things we should consider prior to implementing anything otherwise is the equity, because right now, if you say WACA is not an option, county customers do not have a reprieve after having an adverse decision from the Customer Support and Service Division. So that's something to keep in mind.
Totally hear you, but also want to say, and this is not apple to oranges. If I were to go to a rec center on the east side of the city and they tell me that I can't rent it out because it's full, if I go over to Baltimore County, I can't get a county rate, right? And no matter how urgent it is, and once again, that's apples to oranges, but I know that puts them in a bind, but that also calls for their leadership to rise to the occasion, like Baltimore City has done.
And so they get redirected to DPW because the county does not bill them for water. But that's why I said it warrants a full discussion about it and how that gets handled. There is an opportunity there to address it, as you're indicating, and that is something that myself and the deputy director have discussed how we move forward with that. And so those wheels are in process to occur.
Thank Councilman Gray. I will note on this topic, there is live conversation happening, in part being led by the comptroller about regionalism in our water system and how to more equitably address the reality that while Baltimore County folks are paying into our system, I think that the city has felt very pinched by the amount that we pay as opposed to the county. So I know there's good conversation with the administration, the Board of Estimates, Comptroller Henry, et cetera, but appreciate the line of questioning. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief Mills, just want to home in on this 569 number a little bit, just try to get a better understanding on where it's trending and where it's going and what direction it's going in regards of active cases, closed cases, and in the queue. The number 569, I guess, what was the start date? I guess if we can, like, when did you begin tracking?
So we began tracking in September 2023, September 1, 2023.
Got it.
And so from there forward, we right now average about 5 new cases a week.
Mm-hmm. So about 5 new cases. And about how many cases would you say actually gets closed in, let's say, a month?
So
any idea?
The majority of those that get closed quicker are water for all, because there's a set formula by which we follow. You know, we abide, and again, Ms. Douglas has gotten it down to a science with getting those in and getting them out, putting them in the folder. We were able to do quite a few over the holiday period to get them out the door, and so now we're working to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay. I guess my question is, how is that, well, outside of the water for all ones, how is it projecting? Because just listening to the council president's story when he mentioned earlier, it said after a year-long investigation. There's investigations I've known that been sent and taken over a year to actually do. There's, 291 in the queue, which means some people may almost wait up until a year in order to be seen. When we're talking about waiting for a year to actually have your case looked at, a year-long investigation in order to make a determination, that's almost a 2-year waiting period for someone who's not a water for all customer in order to get an answer. Just trying to manage expectations, and when people ask for this help, do they understand that we may wait 2 years in order to get some kind of decision on their investigation? And if so, it's tough because people aren't going to want to pay their water bill until they get an answer. And is a 2-year almost average time for someone who's not a water for all customer, out bar? And is there something we could do better to kind of adjust that and make sure that isn't the average waiting time?
So each of us in the office has had conversations with a number of customers to set the expectation. However, to your point, after 2 or 3 months, they've hit a point where they're wondering where they are. So what we tell them from the beginning is that, we'll always tell you the truth. You may not like the answer, but we'll tell you the truth on how long it's going to take. And so at that point, once it gets assigned to a customer advocate, at that point now, I'm working with each of the advocates to figure out how can we move the pieces around to get to something quicker than others. If it's something that can truly be handled quickly, how can we get those done while we're still concurrently working on the ones that may take longer? And so that changes, I would say, monthly in terms of what that looks like.
And just for clarification, as far as an active case versus in a queue, what kind of triggers that? What's the main difference between?
Active case is something that's being
investigation?
actively investigated. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, is that like an active investigation started and then, I guess, closes once the report has been sent to the customer?
So in queue means that it may or may not have been assigned to a customer advocate for investigation. Active means a customer advocate is investigating. Actively investigating, getting information from the department, getting information from the customer, researching any statutes that we may need to look at to make certain that we bring it to resolution, because each of the determinations are grounded in statute. We don't do opinions. We only base it on fact. There was a reference earlier, excuse me, to a customer receiving something or the department sharing something that we had not received. We've not experienced where we've made a request for all records and not received all records. So I would say it's less likely something would come up later that we haven't seen because they've been good about culling through everything and getting us the information that we need.
Gotcha. And just last question. On average, anybody may know, I don't know if someone from DPW can answer it, how long an investigation on their end may take? Just curious.
Investigation for?
Yeah. If for their customer service, if they look into to get someone an answer on something. Just.
You're saying investigate, but you mean if a customer's disputing a bill within customer service, you want to know how long does it take from start to completion for them?
Just.
Okay.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Casey Bryant, Chief of CSSD. Depending on the nature of the complaint, it can be investigated as soon as hours after it's received, or it may take a couple weeks because it involves a number of different units.
Mm-hmm. Just on average, any idea? I guess case by case?
I was gonna say it really is case by case. I was in receipt for something from your office earlier today. Got a response out to you this afternoon. So it could be that simple, but it could require reaching out to another unit. They may have to look into their file. So it's kind of a tug of war, depending on how many units and how many responses we need to corral in order to provide a comprehensive response or determination on an investigation.
Got it. No. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right.
Director Moore?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'll
So-
pass it on to whoever next.
You got one more, Councilman?
No.
Okay.
So I wanted just to begin by commending you and your team on the work that you're doing. It's really, really important. And you've made a lot of progress since your first report to this body. You've clearly expanded your office. You've added really important, intelligent, smart, hardworking people that are moving this issue forward. And this is all for the people of Baltimore. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And just know that it matters and that we see that. A friendly amendment, if it's possible. I don't know the process, but on the request that was made by Councilman Gray, I'm just wondering if the legal analysis could include what the resources are for the Baltimore County residents, not just whether or not they're entitled to anything from Baltimore City, which I think the answer might be no, but what resources do they have? Because they are our customers as well, and we wouldn't want to leave people without a resource. I'm sure they have resources. Could we just identify what they are through the Baltimore? It doesn't have to happen now, but when that research is done, and the request is answered, if it could just include a footnote or a paragraph on what resources Baltimore County residents have.
So Chief and Ms. Brandt, this is going to be an amendment to the previous council request by Councilman Gray, which we said August 15th for completion. This is the report of an analysis by law and the Department of Public Works to provide analysis of services for the county. And I think what Director Moore is asking for, if I understand correctly, is a delineated list of what those services are so that we can all be clear about it. Is that accurate?
Yes, thank
Great.
you.
Just to respond really quickly, and I know that they'll include that in the ultimate report. So Baltimore County residents are able to file a regular complaint. That's through CSSD, the same thing that Baltimore City residents are able to do. There's also an appeals level within CSSD. So they have two opportunities to have a billing inquiry, billing dispute, whatever the matter may be. The only difference with Baltimore City is that they have that third step where they're able to go to WACA.
Okay, great, thank you. So to my question, so it's hard to look at the data and see that the greatest response, the greatest activity is no response at all. And I think that tells a story that I wonder if there isn't something more that can be done. So I'm wondering if you could just walk us through what happens when someone files a complaint or a request for help, and then ultimately it gets denied because there's no response from the original, to the original submission. What happens?
Are you referring to Water for All, or are
I'm
you referring
referring
to water billing and appeals disputes?
I'm at page 10, Water for All, denial reasons.
Gotcha.
And the greatest reason for denial is that there's no response to the request for information. So
I'll start, and I think Ms. Lewis is making her way here. She's the program administrator.
Sure, and just so you know, what I'm wondering is what we can do to stop this, because I'm
Right.
wondering if there are equity issues that are not being addressed. Are people not getting what they need in order to process? I'm wondering whether or not, because the application is denied, if people are putting their homes at risk. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah, so when there's a request for information, it's because the application is incomplete. That could be not having the full lease that shows that the customer is responsible for paying for the water bill. That could be because they did not provide sufficient number or 30 days, usually 2 pay stubs if they're biweekly, 4 if they're weekly, or they provided them for last year versus the last 30 days. More often than not, those are the 2 top ones. In terms of your equity inquiry, from what we can tell, given that the customers who are filling them out with paper, someone may create that email address for them, but they're not checking it. And so that's why I indicated earlier, we are, as a work group, working to figure out how do we get those who are paper, who we know they may be creating an email on the spot to complete the application, or a family member has completed it for them, and they just need to provide another bit of information for that. That's the part we're diving into now.
Is email the only form of communication?
Email
In other words,
is-
do you get people's phone numbers?
So we have the phone numbers. So email is primary. That's the one unique identifier used. I would say similar to WACA, that the MOCFS team that processes the application is also capacity bound in terms of the number of people. Like there isn't someone who can just make a phone call or spend the day making phone calls versus receiving applications as they come in. About a year ago, Civic Works received a grant from a local foundation and provided some additional support to address seniors and helping them complete the process. And I know they're still doing some work with that. And so that was very helpful. That's the kind of support that's needed if we're unable to provide the financial resources for additional people on the MOCFS team, then we would need to look at community partners that could help us onboarding customers who don't have consistent access to email or regular access, I'll even say, to a mobile device.
Right. I mean, you have a long list of community partners at the back of your report, but what I think I'm hearing is it's email or nothing. Even if you capture a phone number, if you don't hear back from someone by email, then the application doesn't move forward. No one's going to call.
Well, by email or phones. So there are text messages and there's the robocalls, but most people are not responding to numbers they don't know.
Is there anything in the application that shares the phone number that people will be, I'm just trying to figure out how you can,
Correct.
This is terrible.
And actually, I was about to
I
write
just-
down that as an inquiry to find out if that's something that can be done.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say the application doesn't, there's a phone number that they can call, but when the calls go out, I don't know if that's the number that is shown when the call goes out.
What I would like, I would like there to be some exploration of what can be done to address the gap in processing applications, or this large number of applications that get dropped because there's no response to requests for information. Something other than nothing needs to be done. And I have some thoughts on what that might be, but I'd like y'all to think about that and, using the same August date, what structurally can be done to address that glaring omission of communication. And because really we're talking about helping people who need help. And they need help not just with their water bill, but obviously help to actually, if it's my mother, she's 92, she's not gonna get a text, she's not gonna respond to text message.
Correct.
She's not gonna respond to email, but she will answer that phone.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. And so you're saying by the 14th of August?
Well, or whatever date that Council President suggests. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
14th of August.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the 14th is a Saturday. Let's amend that to, indeed. Let's do after
I would say
Mako.
before Mako.
How about August 17th? That sound good? And Director Moore, if you could just, again, restate the question that you were asking so that we can be clear on what we're asking Chief Mills to produce.
Yes. What I'm asking is for there to be a plan on how to reduce the number of applications that are denied for lack of a response to requests for information.
Understood.
And you want the WACA team and the Department of Public Works to work together on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Chief Mills, August 17th, can you please produce that report
Yes.
to this committee? Mr. Robinson, I'm looking at you as well. Does that timeline, you can just nod or not, does that timeline work for you to work with the WACA team to produce a report on how these concerns can be expedited?
So as they discuss it, I will say we do have a retreat and some other activities that take place, but the work group would need to first discuss it and then move it upline to ensure it's a viable plan.
Okay. Mr. Robinson,
Only thing I would ask for is clarification on the date, sir.
date is August 17th.
August 17th? Yes, sir. I believe we can do something to that effect.
Okay, so this committee's expectation is that there will be two reports, one from the Law Department and DPW looking at issues related to the county with a delineated list of which services are provided to the county. Additionally, on August 17th, this committee will look for a separate report on how these concerns can be expedited more quickly, and there can be less left in the unresolved category. Director Moore, does that adequately summarize your
Yes.
question? Great.
Yes, that's helpful.
Yes, we agree.
Okay, thank you both. Any other?
Just my last question is whether any cases have been sent over to the Environmental Control Board and what those outcomes might have been.
So since the last meeting, there's been one appeal of a WACA determination. The date for the hearing is set for, I believe, next week.
Oh.
So it's fresh.
We'll be watching.
So once we have the hearing, the hearing officer has about 30 days to write that recommendation that they then provide to the director of DPW.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Director Moore. Chief Mills, I'm going to start somewhat where Councilman Jones left off, and by following up on a question from last time, I requested stats on the processing time for complaints, and I'm grateful that we did receive that data. According to you all, for all the cases to date, the average time to completion is 265 days. The fastest 25% of cases are happening in 131 days or less, which is still more than 4 months. I just want to make sure, because there was a comment earlier about sometimes it takes 2 days, but that is what you all sent to us. And so I just want to, just in terms of data integrity, just make sure you all still stand by that.
Yes, I stand by that, and here's why. There are some cases that do get completed quicker, but just as those are being completed quicker, there are some that have been on the books longer. And so, that they balance out, but, well, it's not really a balance, but it works out to the 131 for most of them. So we have some outliers in there. I think the largest one was multiple years that we worked on. And so that long one, by that lengthy one in terms of the investigation, by the time you add in more that may have been 14 days, it begins to bring that average time down, but it's still a hefty time. So
Yeah,
I would have to pull out the outliers or define them and pull them out to see what that really looks like.
yeah. Again, I just want to reiterate that the fastest 25% are the 131 days. The average time to completion, according to the data that you sent, is actually 265 days. Is that accurate?
I stand by that because I was the one that did the numbers, and yes.
Okay. As I think has been reiterated throughout this night, that is a very concerning average. 265 days is a very long time. And while I understand some are handled quickly, clearly others are not, because if there's one that happened in 2 days, that means there's one that happened in 500, and I'm not great at math, but whatever that totals up to. What do you attribute these delays to, and how do you plan to speed up the process? And I know you're going to be sending a whole report to this committee on this topic, but I am curious, just for us for now, sort of why is it taking so long, and how can we speed it up?
Thank you. So we as a team, as an office, have looked at that. This year, as they will each be able to affirm, we're focused on productivity, getting things done quicker, as quickly as we can. I've also advised them that where there are dependencies that we do not control that may be slowing them down, that they advise me so that I can address them, but also that within a certain time frame, we're just going to keep moving forward. If it's something that hasn't come in, we'll make a note of it in the report, and we'll just keep moving forward so that anything external to our office is not something that is delaying the report being written. I emphasized last time, human capital. I am happy to say that we are working on reassigning someone to the WACA team. That is being worked on. And so we'll have another body that I'm certain once that person is onboarded and familiar with our process, we'll be able to pull those times down as well. And so some of those times that you saw that actually ended up being less is because having one more person in there helped. So we can do all of the process improvement we want, but at some point, people is, you're looking at a team of 4 handling what at least 50 or more people currently work on in terms of the volume. And so we're looking at the nuances of what caused this so that we can identify root causes that also help the system, but allow us to move forward. And then as we get to future cases, we are then able to identify some of those items or issues quicker because we already have that experience.
Understood. I don't want to be blithe or disrespectful in any way in this comment, but we can have more people, but if our process isn't right, then we're just adding more people into a disjointed, jumbled process. And so I really want to focus internally on getting the process, the systems right before we talk about any kind of further augmentation of people, though I do appreciate it's a lot of work, and I'm grateful to your staff that does it. As a follow-up, am I correct in understanding that you are reporting not the time from receipt to completion, but the time from when you begin the investigation to the time you complete it?
So based on our last meeting, we're now tracking both numbers from when they register to completion and when the investigation begins to completion. I would say both of those are important numbers to track. I'll also add in terms of process, just everything we do is manual. And so we're looking for tools as well that will assist us, will automate notifications to us when cases get to a certain point so that we know that they get addressed. Right now, we have a voluminous Excel spreadsheet that has all 569 rows of data that we collect, as well as the data that I use to cull through and provide you the metrics that we have. So it's a very manual process that we're doing. And so the process is the process. The process is working, but as long as there's human intervention, if we can automate the items that don't require our intervention, that's what we're looking to do. So we're looking at 2 tools that may be able to assist us with doing that.
Yeah, and I would just say that hearing an Excel spreadsheet is not music to my ears. We're in 2026. We, as a city, have sometimes struggled to, whether it's Workday, whether it's any of our technological innovations, but we've got to get to a place where we're moving at the speed of technology, and it is going to be very important, and this was a line of questioning I had for later, but it's really important that you all adapt to some better technology here so that we're not stuck in what must be a miserable and massive Excel sheet for your staff.
Occasionally crashes as it did earlier this morning. But what I will share is that So we've spoken to folk with DPW IT, we've spoken to folk with BISIT, and so actually BISIT directed us that there's a potential module with the billing platform that we should look at. And so we're working towards reviewing that. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we just reviewed a vendor platform that would assist us greatly. What I like about it is not just the online form, but that people can call to actually file their dispute as well, and they provide language access if necessary. So there's the luxury version, and there's the budget version. I would love to have the luxury version, and so I'll have to see how we can negotiate that in a couple of weeks when I have discussions about it.
Well, it is budget time in the city of Baltimore, so never a better time than now. Please make sure you are making that request so that we can, as we go through our budget process, have that as a consideration. My last line of questions here, it is news to me that DPW is the last word on WACA decisions. I don't believe that was the intent of the legislation. How many WACA decisions have been overturned, and how much in potential relief did this correspond to?
So I'm going to answer that in 2 parts. So if you recall the first meeting, we provided insight on ECB hearings and any cases that may have been overturned or remanded. And there were 3 or 4 that were remanded back to the hearing officer, and the hearing officer came back with a recommendation in favor of the customer. Currently, I am not aware of any that have been overturned. So I believe the customers are just waiting for the adjustment to be applied. In the absence of any other information, that's all I know.
Okay. I just want to be crystal clear here. The purpose of your office is to be the final arbiter on these decisions. It should not then go back to the Department of Public Works. And if there's an independence issue here, happy to consider it, think about it, try to figure it out. But I know that when we passed this legislation, the idea was for WACA to be the arbiter for customers, so that, and this is not in any way, shape, or form a knock on my friends in DPW, but so that there was some semblance of an independent, neutral party that could determine whether the billing dispute was ultimately in the favor of the customer or the agency, the city. And so I just want to get really clear, because I think for me and for this committee, it's important to know that ultimately you all make the last decision. It should not go back to the Department of Public Works.
I would say one of the things that, and I've identified this as an opportunity to our executive leadership, that this is the time for us to create the regulations that govern that process post-determination, so that when you ask how long does it take for a customer to receive the adjustment based on our determination, we're able to ask because that process has been thought through, written, vetted, and put in place. So until that occurs, it's, we're still here, but there's been open discussion about that, and so it's getting everyone to the table.
Understood, and I also understand there's a degree to which building the plane and flying it at the same time, very much appreciate that dynamic, as I find it relevant to my life often. However, I do just want to reiterate that I think the goal of this legislation, and I'm happy to go back and review the legislation and, if need be, amend the legislation, is to make sure that the final decision rests with WACA and not the agency, which would ultimately be deciding itself on a dispute between it and a customer. So I just want to make that clear. Looking forward to further dialogue on that point. I see Mr. Robinson sauntering back to the mic, and we'll turn to you.
So good evening, Chair. So to that point, that is also something that we will hope to deliberate during the report that is due to you on August the 17th. Because while I understand that that was your intent in drafting legislation, there has been multiple interpretations of where that authority lies. So that we all are in agreement. We want to clear that up. And we want to make sure that the legislation as written or as intended does exactly what we expect it to do, but there are some gaps that we do need to address, and I think it is open to conversation for us to get to those points.
Okay, I will look forward to seeing that on August 17th
We'll
now.
see, and honestly, sir, you'll see it before then. We'll have a conversation prior to then so that on the August 17th, we're all in agreement on what is being shared at that time.
I very much appreciate that. I am going to very strongly urge you all to consider having WACA be the final voice on disputes. I think the spirit and I think the bill itself of this legislation was really about empowering a neutral arbiter, not having the agency make the final determination. I look forward to continuing that dialogue and if need be, returning to the legislation so that we can make sure we get this point right. I'm gonna go to Inspector General Cumming.
Okay.
This committee is the oversight group of yours, and I can't tell you how difficult it is to do our job when we get all of this data and I can't review it before. I mean, this can never happen again, okay? I cannot come to a meeting and get 34 pages and expect to represent the people or do what our job. I mean, if we can't get it before this, then we need to cancel the meeting and move it till we can review this. It looks like you put together a lot of data, but you know, we don't have any opportunity to verify or even know what the data is we're going to get as a committee. I cannot stress it enough to you that we need to get this earlier because it's our job to help you do your job. And we can't do that if we don't have the information in a much more timely fashion. I mean, this one we got today, it's 34 pages with all types of data, and I can't sit here and look at it and listen to what you're presenting. So I'm just asking you, please.
Can I make one request related to that, to the Council President's office?
Yes, sir.
When you all send us the notification of the meeting, if you could tell us when you'd like to have that, and we'll make sure that we have that to you. The reporting.
Tell you all,
Yes.
yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll say just generally, I think if you can give 2 weeks advance notice, this committee would certainly appreciate it.
Noted.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes, I wanted to follow back up on the point that the Council President made earlier, Council President/Chair, many titles. If WACA is the final arbiter, how do we then start with you at the point of a complaint? Could you just, so if someone has an issue, if you are the independent third party that's supposed to determine whether DPW got it right or wrong, how can that happen without letting DPW do their process? And I asked that in two parts. One, they actually have two parts in which they handle their the complaint process. Respectfully, it probably takes less time for them to be able to do that. And then, am I wrong in assuming that you guys have access to their systems? Do you guys have access to their systems?
We have access to the billing platform.
Okay, so for investigational purposes, would it make sense for it to go through the two-step process. You have said evidence, and I'm pretty sure the same evidence that you guys would have to go through to make your determination. You can correct me if I'm right or wrong on that. And then built off of one, you being the arbiter and the final decision, we're not doing duplicative work where you're doing an investigation and then they have to do an investigation based off of your investigation because you're making a determination that they have to sign off on because they haven't seen it yet and everything is really confusing. And I just know as a constituent, once again, if you tell me I'm going whoever told me the highest. Am I getting something back? If you say 750 and they say 800, 800, and vice versa. And so I don't know if this is a question more than just a statement of I think that we really have to rethink how this works. You guys can't be the alpha and the omega. If you are the omega, they have to be they have to start. They have to be allowed to start the process. They go through the process. And customers need to be able to understand how it goes. Because if they put in a process with you all, and only to find out that they can also do it for DPW, and they put in two, you guys aren't talking with each other, right? And so your determination is going to come, if you come to two different determinations, one, I understand that, but secondly, I also have to look at the fact that, and this is no disrespect to anything that you guys are doing, but you're working off an Excel spreadsheet. And so if you put that information in wrong, there's not a system in the world that's going to tell you that that's wrong. And so if you get a number wrong and then they get a number that's different, who's to say who's right or wrong? Now we're doing additional work to figure out whether that number is right. And so I say all this, I guess, to say, and I guess DPW, you guys can answer this. And you can answer as well, Mr. Mills. Do you believe DPW should complete the two-stage complaint process before it goes to you guys? And whether you believe that or not, how often is that happening currently?
So thank you for the question. So 25% of our caseload we've identified as not yet having, that they may not have gone through both of the previous steps. I will say WACA can only control its processes. There is on page, what's this, 6, we've recently requested a visual flow to make certain we understand all of the steps a customer has to go through with the customer support and service division, so that based on that, if we need to make modifications, we can. But we have to, before we can do that, we have to fully understand their process. To address the duplicative possibilities, again, one of the representatives from Baltimore City IT suggested we look at the billing platform, which has a dispute resolution module. I would suggest even that to get to some of the rudimentary things that are being requested, similar to how technology projects are handled when they're rolled out, you need an executive sponsor who helps to clear the way to ensure certain things occur. And we may be at that point where we need an executive sponsor to clear the way to ensure we're speaking when we should be speaking, to ensure we're bringing things to resolution as should be. I'm not saying one group is at fault or not. I'm saying I recognize that there are challenges and that ultimately to do this right for our customers, we need to be speaking and working through the healthy conversations to make sure that we get to a process that fully represents giving them that, because initially I didn't agree with that, but there's one of the teams we work with, OSAP, they recommended that in the beginning to make sure everyone goes through the Customer Support and Service Division first, and I don't disagree with that. I just need to understand what the customer is going through so that if there are improvements that should be made to make certain that they're aware of the next step, that takes place.
So you do think it should start with them, or that last part, I'm trying to figure
No,
out.
I do believe all customers should go through. I still believe there should be two doors because
yeah.
there may have been something that occurred where they called and it didn't move. And so there should be a release valve there for that. But in the absence of that, all customers should go through the process. Processes.
And so when you guys are taking on those cases initially, why aren't you just sending them over directly to DPW? Like, once again, because of your workload and because of what you guys are still trying to process, I think it's probably beneficial just to be like, hey, can you please start there? And then come to us. And if they didn't answer, I think those are the type of things that we want to know on this committee, and things that can be documented. And so when you do reach out, you have an email, you actually have receipts on whether or not DPW didn't do their job in reaching back out. But I do think taking on that responsibility, when you actually have cases that actually went through the process as it should, just adds an added burden to your caseload that you should not and you shouldn't be taking up. And another, as a aside, Ms. Moore had a fantastic idea, and I never want to take a fantastic idea away from a Black woman. And so I always want to make sure she gets her credit. One of the things she highlighted was the OPI, the Office of Performance and Innovation.
Yeah.
We just had a presentation that went longer than expected. We were very enthusiastic to hear about their Tiger teams. We know that they do amazing things. Is there any way that you guys can sit down with the folks at customer service for DPW, with OPI, to figure out a way that we can all sit down, you guys have access to the same information that they have, and then from there, you can, I'm saying the goal would be that, whether you're receiving it or not.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then from there, you're not working off of the Excel spreadsheet, because as someone who stepped foot in City Hall and had to do my my time on an Excel spreadsheet, and also have to use a Word document to second whatever I was putting in, I know how cumbersome that can be, and you shouldn't have to use it. And we have systems that I feel like you should be able to take advantage of.
So you mentioned process and OPI. I'll start with OPI.
Yeah.
I had reached out previously. I'll do that again. Had a brief face-to-face conversation, but I'll do that again as a follow-up to see what might be possible. In terms of process, I'll just reiterate that this is where understanding their current processes helps, because I have at least 5 to 7 where the customer has had some engagement but did not complete the process, but would rather wait for our time than the amount of time that they've already spent. And so that's still something that needs to be addressed in an overall process. Again, what happens and how do we move forward when things like that occur?
Definitely. And once again, if they're taking on average, I want to say 3-4 weeks, and you guys are taking 3-4 months, even if it took them 3 or 4 months to answer, it still technically would probably be faster if you can just get their attention. And this is once again, if you guys can record the times where those balls would drop, then that's where we can step in and try to figure it out. Because even at its worst, I feel like their process will probably be faster than what you guys are doing because of the lack of resources that you have. And it's not because of the wherewithal, the want to. You guys want to help. It's just resources alone, they can probably move faster with the investigation part at least than you guys could.
If I can give you an example of something that we're ready to move forward on, we're just waiting for agreement. After having conversation with the OIG's office, we retooled how we look at our reports. So the customer, by statute, the customer has to receive a report. But what we're also doing now is two other things. One is creating an internal report for the department that lays out all of the details, individuals, et cetera, so that those in the agency know where there are pain points. Similarly, we've created the SOPs, potential policies, and forms for doing internal referrals. Internal referrals meaning something comes in, myself or a team member identifies this is something that really can be handled quicker through CSSD, and so we can refer it back. We've shared that information to them, and we just need to close the loop on that. And so we're ready to do that. We're not against that. We're ready to do that. But I can only control what WACA does.
Gotcha. And just really fast, a request that there is a meeting between DPW/customer service, WACA, and OPI. And I guess we can do the magic date of August 17th again, if not sooner. And I would hope it's sooner, that there's a meeting established where we can figure out a way that that you guys can somehow get into the system. Because I assume you guys have computers at your desk, right? All right, perfect. Like, sorry, we're halfway there, right? You guys have computers at your desk. You just need to have access to a system that I'm sure the folks at OPI can
So
deliver.
there are multiple platforms to which we would need access, but I agree that that meeting should take place so we can identify the systems to which we need access to be able to move forward accordingly, but also so that our colleagues can be informed when we're working on something so that we're not duplicating. Right?
Well, you shouldn't be duplicating because they should just be doing that process first, and then when you guys are doing it, so there shouldn't be any duplication.
The only variable in there that is the unknown is the customer. And so until we have something in place, whether a conversation or a tool that would prevent duplicative work, we risk doing that.
I'm gonna, but you're the tool. You guys are the tool. You guys can just be like, we're not, I hear you, I would love to help you.
Understood.
You have to start the process there. I'm here for you on the end. I am here for you. I advocate for you. My body work speaks for itself. We're definitely going to advocate for you, but you have to go through the process. And so we're not even, to me, I don't even want to talk about like duplicate work because like it shouldn't be there in the first place.
Understood.
But if we could just make sure we have that meeting, is that something that DPW can agree to, having the meeting? And well, Alan, I guess you play both sides. You can also speak for the mayor's office as well.
Yes, so I'm gonna ask for clarification again, sir, on what is it exactly that you're asking for in this meeting?
So they're working with Excel, which I wouldn't wish on anybody. And so is there a way that we can work with OPI, BC, whatever the technology, but probably OPI, to figure out a way that they can be incorporated into the system? I don't know if it's read only, but ways that which we can digitize their process to improve it. Because right now, it just sounds like that working on Excel is just not working.
I agree, working on Excel is not working. We do need to find a new technology to support what they're doing, but they do have access. He has read-only access to the back end of the UMAC system, so they are able to pull the data from there, so I want to clarify that. But we will talk about other technological support that may exist. I know there was one thing that he did mention was the dispute resolution module of the UMAC system. At this time, we actually have not paid for that. We are spending quite a few dollars on this system, and there are some upgrades that we are looking to do because while he also doesn't have access to that, My CSSD team does not have access to that. So that is something that we are looking to acquire in the updates in the future as we get funding to be able to do that. There was another part to your question that I want to make sure I also address. We were talking about a conversation.
I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, so.
Trust me, I understand, sir. But to that point, we will open up all conversations. We agree with you. We need to let the process work. I tell my folks that all the time. In order for you to tell me that the process isn't working, I need to see you actually work the process and can point to exactly where the pain points were. While I do agree that Chief Mills has done his best to try to work certain parts of the process, there are other parts of the process that I think collectively we need to work on so that we make sure, especially if the thought and the intent is that they are the final arbiter of this, that they allow the process to work, as you've alluded to, sir, in order for you to get to them. Now, having to understand how everything is made within CSSD, I don't think is necessary for him to be able to do his portion of the work. But that is a whole nother conversation. But we're open to all conversations. I know that my chief of CSSD is open to supporting the office that Chief Mills oversees. So we just need to sit down and have communication, have open, honest communication, and be productive in what it is that we're discussing and move forward.
So, Mr. Robinson, I'm just going to summarize what I'm hearing in all this. Two things. One, let's fix the technology. Like,
Yes, sir.
it should not take us forever to get a system that isn't Excel. It's hampering these incredibly hardworking folks' ability to work expeditiously. And then two is, and this may be a friendly amendment to the magical committee request that's coming in on the 17th, but we need a process map that clarifies when your work starts, when his work starts, when ne'er the two shall meet, just so that there's clarity. And again, it is my strong opinion, having been there when this legislation was drafted, that ultimately the decision should lie with WACA as the final arbiter. It does not make me feel great to hear DPW as the final arbiter. I think the whole point here is for them to make the final call. But I think to the councilman's point, critically important that we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're not, I've heard the word duplicating efforts. And so let's get a clear process map. And again, to the councilman's point, in partnership with OPI, BSIT, whatever we need to do, let's get some technology. And when you all produce that report for Director Moore, if we could also include a very clear process map, that would be helpful. That sound good?
That sounds great, sir.
I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to highlight how surprised I am that, they wasn't the final arbiter in these decisions. I thought that was the whole point of this agency committee, was to kind of make that decision. So I do look forward to those conversations moving forward. In regards of who needs to be the first to interact with the customer, I just want to echo my colleague, Councilman Gray's thought that it needs to go to DPW first if that's the case. You have to let that process run through. And you mentioned you needed that second door just in case people wasn't getting a response from DPW. I would say don't feel like you have to carry that burden because they also have council people representatives. We can make sure, if they aren't getting responses from DPW, I'm sure they're partners where we can work with them, making sure, like any other agency in the city, that they get the proper response that they need so that they can later on go to you and get the necessary relief if they aren't happy and satisfied with that. Because also, from just looking at the numbers, the first question I looked at, I think the caseload is getting larger and larger, where if we can avoid some cases that DPW may have accidentally made an oversight and they can fix their own oversight. Let's fix their own issue. Let's keep it away from you, that way your numbers aren't getting bigger.
Totally agree.
Just for something that you will take a year to find, point it out to them, and they say, oh yeah, we did make a mistake, and we never saw this mistake, but if someone would have pointed it out to us,
And
we've
that's
been
the
taken care
purpose
of
of
it.
the internal referrals. Because we've identified some.
Exactly, but what I will say is, and just let everyone else here at the table know, upon them being the final arbiter, that's a large responsibility, and we got to make sure that they're prepared for. Because in them being the final arbiter, it will have decisions being made that have financial impacts. And if the city can't wait till 3, 4, 5 years down the line for these decisions to be made, if they don't have the technology and everything moving forward to give a final investigation in a timely manner. So before we make sure that's finalized, let's make sure they're in a place in which we're able to handle those things.
Yeah, and Councilman, I agree with you. I will say that as I've read through the article innumerable times, I understand that, which is why, and let me also say, Deputy Director Robinson has been very supportive. We transitioned under his line in the fall, and so he's asked directly, how can I help you? And typically my response is, let me first work on it to see what I can get done. And where I need assistance, I'll come back. So I want to make certain to be transparent and indicate that we've had that conversation. He's aware of some of the issues that we face and has asked how he can be helpful. But to your points, right, we have to first work through the system, through the processes, to go through a natural ebb and flow of modifying things. And so that is not a quick process. As a certified project manager, I understand the change management process. I understand what it takes to go from spreadsheets to technology. I've built those platforms, so I have a wealth of experience and knowledge related to that. We just have to have the right people in the room at the table.
I would just say, as we go through the system, I understand the importance of that, but I just question how effectively are we going through the system if we don't even have established yet who has the final say. Come on, we haven't really been running through if we haven't even know where it ends yet, then we really haven't been running through the system.
Well,
but
we've worked that through. That's why both were able to say we've had the conversation and they're already preparing it, right?
I think that's the most important part of working through the system.
Yes.
So let's get that part together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank Councilman Jones. Other committee members,
I have some questions.
Director Moore.
First of all, thank you for the compliment. Councilman Gray, I appreciate it. I've only been with the city about 10 years, and that's one of the best compliments I've received in 10 years, so thank you.
And this man has not slept since 3 a.m., so look at us.
Okay.
Working for the people at 9 o'clock at.
Oh my gosh. I did reach out to OPI, and they're very open to speaking with you as early as tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll get the name before we leave.
Yes,
All right.
I'll share that with you. So looking at your report, pages 8 to 18, there's about 11 pages of recommendations, and the recommendations are really thoughtful. They're detailed, they're specific. Of your 92 recommendations, 10 are in process, 3 are on hold, and the remainder are to be determined. And I'm just wondering if you could help us understand what all that means, and are there any recommendations that have been adopted? It seems no. So then let's talk about that.
So in all fairness to CSSD, I can't say no until I've had the meeting with my point of contact to identify where they are on each of those for which they've made some progress. So that has to happen first. They've had a leadership change not long ago. There was a assignment of that task to someone. So it moved from someone who had it to someone new. And so we now just need to, they have to have the time to go through it to identify what has and has not occurred. And if it has occurred, affirm it and provide us the information. Chief Brent and I have had the discussion, and she's assured me that they're working through
She's
it.
standing behind you.
Chief Brent, your name, Chief Brent, your name has been invoked.
Yeah, well, you want to add to that?
Yeah, because I'm sitting here, I'm getting a little upset. Y'all made 92 recommendations and nothing happened?
No,
That's not right.
so to be clear, Chief Mills and I have met. We have a bi-weekly meeting established. The document that he did provide with the 92 recommendations, about 90% of that is already in place by CSSD. There are SOPs, there are workflows, there are particular things that have already been, I'm sorry.
No, it just clicked. No,
Oh,
continue, I'm sorry.
okay, yeah, I mean,
He's talking to himself.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, but also, I just wanted to make sure I was answering.
Now that you stopped me, it's because he doesn't know your process, which is what he spoke about earlier. So he's making recommendations kind of to a process that he may not always know what all the customers go through. Is that the reason why? Because he was like getting familiar with the process on the other end?
I cannot speak for Chief
Okay.
Mills, but upon review of the 92 recommendations, it's clear that questions were not asked prior to them being developed. So we have a large portion, I could probably give you an actual count of the 92 that we either have in place or have fulfilled, and this is prior to the recommendations being supplied.
Okay. Don't really want to add to your list of things for
It's
August 17th.
this part's already done, so.
Yeah, it would be really helpful to know what's been resolved.
August 17th?
Yeah?
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Any, Councilman Jones, are you?
No.
Are we
You good?
good?
All right.
Good. All right. And then.
And so what I'll add to that, though, is as the office that made the recommendations, we'll sit down with Chief Brent and her team to ensure that, because we received some initial responses that were not germane to what the recommendation was. So we'll review that with them to ensure that that has been done so that there's not conflicting information coming to you.
Excellent. And I really do think the recommendations were really thoughtful and really went right to addressing, challenges. So I do appreciate that.
Director Moore, I apologize. If you could just briefly restate the committee request so
Sure.
that my friendly staff here does not kill me at the end of this meeting, just so that we're all on the same page. And this is for the omnibus August 17th committee request. If you could just restate what you're asking for.
Sure. What I'm requesting is that of the 92 recommendations that appear at pages 8 to 18 of the April 27, 2026 report, that you give us a quick follow-up on the status of those recommendations, what's resolved, what's not resolved.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Mills, are you amenable to that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
As Chief Brent mentioned, they were, and I mentioned in the beginning, they were already working on it. So we just need to meet to affirm that, and we'll have that done.
Thank you.
Super. Do I have a follow-up or one more?
You got one more?
Okay,
Go ahead.
page 6 of your first report from September, you included a customer dispute process, and it obviously it parrots and is aligned with the legislation, Article 24, Section 2-19 to 20. Customer appeals, there's 90 days for a customer to appeal a decision. I don't know if there's any appetite to amend the legislation, but if there is an appetite to amend the legislation, I just wonder if the amount of time for a customer to file an appeal could be reduced to 30 days and thereby shorten the process. It's just something, it's not a request, it's just something to think about in order to abbreviate the process, quicken the process.
And to your point, I believe when we begin reviewing that process with OPI, I think there's a natural set of recommendations that will come about as a result. That may be a lengthy runway. And so ensuring that we have all of the processes for both parts in place and affirmed, I would say that would be one of the recommendations that would come through that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Director Moore. other committee questions? Mr. Bowlesby, you have not spoken tonight. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mills, just want to echo the sentiments of everybody else, and thank you and your team for your hard work. The first question that I have, it goes back to the topic of automation that you mentioned, and I know that there's a process of system identification and access that needs to be done first before diving very deeply into that, but could you just give some insight into, particularly when we're looking at the fact that there are, just a few customer advocates that you have on your team, what parts of their current process would be better assisted by automation in order to, help speed up the process and deal with the backlog we currently have?
I would say for all of us, because I'm also someone who conducts investigations and writes reports, I would say an internal notification system so that we receive a ping or something to indicate to us where certain cases are in the process. Ideally, when you've created an automated process flow, you create notification points that occur. And so automated notifications are extremely helpful to letting us know when we are or are not on track. I would say that's number one. Number two, having a way for those customers who may not have regular access to email or may experience challenges with having access to telephonic communication, having some way for them to be able to call a number similar to the platform that I mentioned earlier that has representatives that would be dedicated and available to us, having some way for them to call to either provide information on update or something of that nature would be helpful. Those are the two things that stick out.
Yes, sir. Okay. In terms of their process of investigation and the data mining portion of that, I imagine that could be a very time-consuming piece also. In automation, are we looking at tools that would integrate well with the systems that are in place to perhaps be able to pull those reports a little more easily so that data doesn't have to be manipulated as much? Is that a part of the thought process there also?
So again, as a someone who's been a technology project manager, that is for me. However, first understanding what opportunities there are if there are opportunities, I should say, to integrate with the existing platform, and if not, how we then export that data to whatever platform we identify to make certain that it's as seamless as can be.
Yes, sir. One additional question, Mr. Chair. And I apologize if this has been addressed already. I did miss a slight portion of this process. But in your recommendations at the end, you mentioned in Article 24 that there's language there that the Department of Finance is to promptly issue an amended bill to the customer upon the customer advocate making a determination. However, your office has noted some inconsistency between the statutory directive and the operational practice. Could you, if you haven't already, could you talk a little bit about what that part of the process looks like post-determination and how, that pipeline is from determination to BRC issuing the actual refund?
Right. So that is a part of, I will respond to it, but just want to know that is a part of what Deputy Director Robinson addressed in terms of providing the committee requests for the 17th in terms of interpretations. But currently, once we issue a determination, is written for the customer but shared with the department, we do not have the ability to make the adjustments ourselves, nor do I think we should. I believe that should occur somewhere else. However, we currently also do not know, unless we go back into, this goes back to automation, unless we go back into the platform, we don't know if an adjustment has been made to the account based on the determination. And so, which is why in the report, you see those for which we've made determinations, that we have no adjustment because as of the last time we reviewed it, we did not notice the adjustment being applied to the account.
And that was a slide on the report. I believe it was about $120,000 or so.
Correct.
Okay. got it.
Correct. Because one of them was about half of that, it was about 55 or 57,000, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Yes, and I will say that customer calls every 2 weeks like clockwork to find out when to your earlier point, I think that was Councilman Gray who made the point that if you tell me this is what I'm going to get, that's what I'm expecting, and she calls every 2 weeks wondering when her adjustment is going to be made, so.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsby. Thank you, Chief Mills. Councilmember Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I apologize for missing a lot of the hearing. I just actually had a question if we can have the next hearing quarterly and not wait 6 months, because it sounds like there's a lot of things that we want to see in 3 months that we should actually have a hearing about.
When is August? Is August 3 months from now? I've lost track of time.
April, so it's May, June,
July.
We can meet on the 17th,
Why
right?
don't we?
No, not get it on the day of the thing.
That's true. I don't want the
Inspector General
reports like right on that day.
has already asked that we not do day of. Why don't, to the Councilwoman's point, why don't we consider a meeting for after the August 17th date? Maybe we'll give ourselves 2 weeks, Councilmember,
That's reasonable, yes.
to process what I expect to be a significant report
The
from
report as well as responses to the committee requests.
all the above. And just to, sorry, and then I'll go right back to you, Councilmember Ramos, just to clarify for the viewing public, the way this is going to work is that committee staff is going to send you in writing a recap of all of these committee requests.
Correct.
Please feel free. Part of why I continuously ask and try to clarify, make sure everyone is in accord, is if there's anything that was inaccurately captured, please feel free to go back. But then our expectation is that you get all of it in writing by the dates due and send it to the entire committee. That's the process. To the council member's point, I don't want to commit because I got to work with my staff on this, but I think having an additional hearing, perhaps 2 weeks after that omnibus council report, committee report is sent, would behoove us. So let's work on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Because it looks like it's a lot of information. We want to have some time to process, but to also not wait another, 6 months or whatever to have this conversation. Because, I think you're hearing from us, Chief Mills, that there's a lot that we're expecting out of all of this. And so I guess the other question that I had, and I guess it's for the law was passed prior to my being on the council, but Council President, I think you're the only one on the committee that was there during this process. Mm-hmm. And it was during a time, again, where what I said earlier, where, billing was, horrible, there was a lot.
Just a quick correction, Inspector General was there as well.
Oh, that's right. And so I think that the other thing that we should consider at some point is whether or not there needs to be adjustments to the legislation. But also, and if you've already discussed this, you can stop me. It's totally fine because I was not in the room recently. But I'm also just curious. I mean, we're the Oversight Board because it sounds like Chief Mills is not. Like, who's your boss? Are we your boss? Who's your boss?
I would say we have dual reporting responsibility within the department and to the committee.
Because it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that you are supposed to be getting that, normally if you had a boss, that we would be getting that for you. I mean, I know that this was created by the council, which is a little bit of a weird dynamic. But just hearing the frustration in my colleagues' voices, I didn't even have to be here in the hearing to understand what was happening. It sounds like there's some real challenges in terms of like, you know, when I had a boss, which I will never have again, you know, you ask for things that you need to be able to have a, you know, good performance.
Correct.
And so it sounds like you just didn't know where to go to ask for all of these things.
No.
Or were you just not thinking about it and just trying to solve the problems yourself?
No, we've been very thoughtful about what we need, and we've made the requests. And some requests have been made several times. And so I would say for those requests for which we've made on several occasions, we're now at the point where it's my responsibility to raise it to the executive leadership team to address.
Right, well, that's the question, and the OIG said, well, who is that? I mean, we're not the ones who can provide you with that because we are the council.
Correct.
However, you were created, your office was created as a result of council action.
Correct. So one of the things I did mention was, and to make sure I'm transparent, is that Deputy Director Robinson has asked what I need from him. Until recently, that there wasn't anything, but at our next meeting, there will be a couple of items that I'll be sharing with him.
Well, I think the technology thing, which again, my colleague
yeah,
very much
we've
talked
addressed
about,
that, yeah.
like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like, so anyway, I'm just trying to understand the dynamic here, Mr. President, because, again, we, the council at the time created this, and, you know, the WACA office should feel free to come to us if there's challenges, which I don't think has been happening, so it maybe has with your office, I don't know. But anyway, just to try to clear up those pieces would be helpful. And at some point, we should have a discussion with the advocates, with your office, with CCSD, and with others, you know, if there has to be some adjustments to the legislation to be what we really want it to be.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Ramos. And I would say that several great minds are thinking alike in terms of the need to revisit the legislation. Councilman Gray texted me a similar sentiment. I think that just like we did today with the Youth Fund bill, which was also a vestige, I believe, of that same council before you all came on, I think any legislation that's worth doing is worth reviewing and making better. And so it does appear we are at that juncture. What I would, again, suggest is that following the August 17th, 2 weeks after that-ish, I'm gonna ask this committee to come back and deliberate. And I think from there, we will have a good sense of whether there is a need for further legislation. And I don't know who sent me this note, but it says that August 17th will be known as the Mako Accords. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman Gray. All right, other questions for Chief Mills? Quick statement, Councilman Gray.
Yeah, and just to, you know, I guess put a bow on this, my line of questioning wasn't to be hostile. It was literally to make sure that at the end of the day, the citizens of Baltimore are being able to be taken care of effectively and efficiently. And so I want to give kudos to you guys as a team over there at WACA, small but mighty, and you guys do a lot with the little that you have. But the goal of WACA is to make sure that the citizens of Baltimore have a voice. And we can't see that through if you guys don't have the resources and the institutional functionality in order for that to happen. And so I think there's a lot that will be discussed between now and August 17th and after. But I just really want to emphasize that you guys do great work, but I think you should also just do what the bill says, which is the final arbiter. And so I think just starting there, let CSSD do their job, you guys do your job, and from here on out, we can figure out the other things. But I just want to make sure that you guys know that you are appreciated. We just want to make sure that you are able to do the best that you can, and you can't do that if you're doing 15 million things on an Excel spreadsheet, so.
And I'll just quickly say that, thank you for the comments. I'm sure the team who's smiling thanks you. And I'll say that when I accepted this role and had to go through committee confirmation, go through the swearing in, signing the book, I understood what that meant, and I understand what that means. I love this kind of stuff. So this doesn't bother me. I don't take any of it personal. This is what I signed up for, and the only way for us to become better is to have that healthy tension to make certain that we're moving in the best interest of the residents of Baltimore and the customers of DPW.
Thank you. Two quick corrections on my end. One, I mentioned that the IG was also in seat when this legislation passed, as was Director Moore, was in city government. You were here, yes. So there were three of us at the time. Also, just to the Councilmember Ramos's point, I do realize August 17th is when all this is due. We're asking for an additional 2 weeks. We do currently have a meeting scheduled for September 14th. So my preference, my staff's preference actually would be to just keep that meeting. That August 17th plus 2 weeks puts us in September anyway. So I want to just keep that, but point well taken about potentially doing quarterly as we move forward. With that, IG coming, and then if there's no further questions and comments, we are going to go to public testimony, and we really appreciate the public hanging with us here this evening.
Just the one thing that I've been listening to, and I know how hard they work. They told me that one of your people is on like a fellowship.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is ending in August.
Yes.
So that could possibly bring you down to 3 people. And I just think that would be a very bad thing for this organization if we lose one more person. So I don't know how fellowships work, but is there anything that can be done to ensure that you don't lose the little team you have, that's small by mighty, but mighty group?
So I will tell you that Deputy Director Robinson and I, we are already in conversation about the FY 27 budget and what that final number looks like to ensure that we can deal with the appropriate headcount.
Okay.
Or how we transition into that. But we've started that conversation. And as I mentioned earlier, part of that is the current reassignment that is occurring for a current DPW employee. So we're looking at that. I've expressed definitely that she is a valuable member of the team. And I don't know if I'm embarrassing her by saying all of this now.
It has to be said.
Yeah, but I've even expressed to her that it is my intent that we work to ensure that she's able to become an employee, a full-time employee.
Thank you, Madam Inspector General. Thank you. We're glad to hear that. All right, with that, we are going to go to the public, starting with Mary Grant. Ms. Grant and members of the public, you will have 3 minutes to testify. We will be running the shot clock. So Ethan, come on up. Hang on 1 second, Ms. Grant. Thank you.
Well, Thank you, and thank you, Council President and members of the Oversight Committee for all your time this evening. It's a long meeting, and we really appreciate your support and your leadership and commitment to affordable and accessible water for all of Baltimore. I also want to thank Mr. Mills for his dedication and efforts to stand up and really build from scratch the WACA office, which is important to remember that he's building this from scratch. I'm Mary Grant with Food and Water Watch and a member of the Baltimore Right to Water Coalition. I'm also a resident of the city. Food and Water Watch and the coalition have been working for more than a decade now. So we were also here when the Water Accountability and Equity Act passed. So we supported the passage in 2020 that established the WACA office and the Water for All program. And both programs have seen major improvements in recent years, but we know so much more work is necessary to make them work better and reach every household in the city. So tonight, we want to urge the Oversight Committee to continue to support this work. So as the city works on its annual budget right now, it was mentioned earlier, Mayor Scott and the City Council have the opportunity to provide resources to hire more customer advocates and expand access to the water affordability programs for thousands of families in Baltimore. Specifically, we're asking your support for resources to hire an additional 6 full-time customer advocates to fully staff the WACA office. Maybe we learned tonight that the county is not paying for the WACA office at all, so maybe we can also think about how we can get the county to pay into the office as we adjust the cost allocations to make them more equitable between the city and the county. And Council President, I really appreciate how you lifted up, as well as everyone else on this committee, the need for the office to be independent. And the goal really with the legislation was for that independence, and that WACA decisions need to be respected by DPW and credits applied quickly. So we're asking this committee to take leadership to determine how to streamline that adjustment process. Customers should not have to wait months after the WACA makes the determination for an adjustment to be applied to their account. This must happen quickly. We ask you to find out and really hold the person responsible to direct that the responsible party make the adjustment within several business days. No one should struggle for their most basic resources, and so we believe that augmentation of the WACA office, as well as the Water for All program, will make tangible improvements to people's lives and move the city toward achieving more water justice. So we, again, really appreciate all your time and effort, and we really appreciate the sentiment that you're gonna build toward working with WACA to make these improvements happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grant. And I know you were there as well when all this went down, so thanks for sticking with it. Really appreciate your advocacy in Food and Water Watch. Next, we have Ann Wilson.
Thank you, Council President and members of the Oversight Committee for the hearing today. Thank you also to Mr. Mills and the staff of the WACA office. My name is Ann Wilson. I'm a Baltimore City resident from Council District 14, and I'm also a volunteer with Food and Water Watch and a member of the Baltimore Right to Water Coalition. I would like to start by saying that I and my neighbors are deeply grateful to the city for a project in my neighborhood of Tuscany, Canterbury. Since September of this year, a fantastic crew has been replacing the water lines on our block and the surrounding area. Before this, the water lines were failing over and over again in the same spots for years, usually when the weather was at its worst. Every time this happened, a crew would come out in the middle of the night and work for hours. Often it seemed like it was always in the freezing rain. Within a few months, often the water lines would break and fail in the same places. Sometimes it was even just within a few weeks. So fast forward to today, the crew has finished. They finished on April 22nd, and we are so glad that the city has given us a real fix for this problem, knock on wood. So we're very grateful for that. So I'm here also to urge the committee to keep Baltimore's promise to put an end to the crisis of crippling debt related to water bills. I was a little concerned that there was no conversation today about debt forgiveness. Obviously, there was a lot of really important stuff to cover, but I would really like to see that become a reality for my low-income neighbors, and I know that's something that Food and Water Watch is certainly committed to. Water shouldn't cost anyone more than 3% of their household income. The second, I want to thank Councilwoman Ramos for advocating around the auto enrollment for my low-income neighbors. It's the right thing to do, obviously, and would love to see that happening as efficiently as possible. These improvements will help protect the basic right to water for thousands of my neighbors, and it's not only the right thing to do, but I would love to see those improvements make Baltimore a healthier city to live in, and for all of us. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Shana Roth Gormley.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify. My name is Shana Roth Gormley. I'm an attorney at Community Law Center. I'm a resident of the 7th District here in the city. I'm here as an advocate, an attorney for nonprofit organizations. We represent organizations on a variety of legal issues, and one that we're hearing from as well as the residential folks who live in the city, the organizations are having issues with their water bills, and particularly with the infrastructure billing fees. They're seeing, especially senior centers, arts organizations, they're experiencing these really high water infrastructure fees. Their actual usage is very low, excuse me, but they're paying these really high, they're getting hundreds, thousands of dollars in bills that they just cannot keep up with and that are really putting them at risk of closing. And so we're seeing issues where in some cases they may have a domestic meter that is what they use on a daily basis, and then an emergency, fire suppression meter, which is what they're actually being charged for, and it could be hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. And so we've been working with the WACA office, and we just really want to thank Chief Mills and the whole office for their assistance with that, especially as we head into tax sale season, where we're hopeful that they can all be removed from the tax sale list while this is under investigation for those organizations. But just want to urge you to, as everyone has said, fully staff, resource the office so that they can continue to provide this critical support. I think a lot of organizations are out there having these problems as well, and are just maybe not aware of the process or where they can go. And so we're really trying to bring this to the forefront, and also urge that independence for the office so that decisions can be implemented right away, because these are organizations that are, in some cases, we're seeing the leadership is putting their own money in to prevent proper senior centers from going to tax sale, or prevent small theaters from losing their property that they've built so much in and that they provide support for the community for because of these high bills. So while you're thinking about the impact on residents, please also consider the impact on these nonprofit organizations. Thank you so much for all you do, and thank you so much to the WACA office.
Thank you. And I would add mosques, churches, and synagogues to that list as well, who I've heard frequently are having challenges with very high water bills. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to testify this evening? Hearing and seeing no one else. This concludes our agenda this evening. I'd like to announce the next meeting of the board for September 14th, 2026 at 6:30 in the City Council chambers. There being no further business, I will accept a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.